looked up at his disciple and said, Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they accuse you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven. For that is what the ancestor did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestor did to the false prophet. This is the word of God. Thanks be to God.
Good morning, friends. Grace be with you and peace. It is an honor to be here today and to share in the good news this morning. My name is Amanda Grant Rose, and I am the Executive Director of Common Cathedral. We're an outdoor church in Boston. But this morning, more importantly, and I am Presbyterian. And it is rare when I am welcomed into a Presbyterian church to preach and to be in community. So for that, today I am extremely grateful. So thank you for having me. Listen just one more time to one of the sentences in the psalm. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. It's easy to read Psalm 23 and to survey your own life. There are these high points in life, those moments of maybe a birth of a child or a wedding day, or these beautiful crisp fall days, these high points. And then there are those low points that we survey and that we think about, those low points in life, maybe the loss of somebody that you love, or an illness, or those dreary, awful, mid-March, gross days. It might be even more challenging to say that God is the one that is shepherding us through these highs and these lows. But today I want to challenge us to think about the words that David did choose to write. He wrote, though I walk. Though I walk. Though I walk through the valley, not run. David did not challenge us to get out of that valley as fast as we can and to run to the other side, but rather he asks us to lean in and to walk through the valley. Before I go too much further into the words that David chose and the psalm this morning, I do want to tell you a little bit about Common Cathedral and what it means to be outside for worship every day. In the summer of 1994, we began. We began because a woman named Reverend Debbie Little decided that she wanted to be outside and she no longer wanted to pass by the people on her way to work. And so instead she began offering sandwiches and friendships and referrals on the streets of Boston. And since then, this simple beginning, Common Cathedral, has turned into an ecumenical church. And we worship on the Boston Commons, and together homeless and privileged people, service providers, clergy, seminarians, artists, and professionals of all kinds gather 7 days a week to care and be the spiritual community for those that call the streets and the shelters of Boston home. During our busy church week, we do 5 main things. We have outdoor ministry, where our pastors and our staff, we take time to find our congregation members wherever they may be, under doorways or in hospitals, wherever they are, we find them and we are church together. Common Cathedral, our Sunday worship. For 23 years, we have worshiped on the Boston Commons right there at Brewer's Fountain. So when you come up of that Park Street T station, there's that beautiful fountain, and for 23 years we have worshiped there, and we have not missed a Sunday. Sun or sleet or rain or blizzard, it does not matter. We have gathered for 23 years and we have worshiped every Sunday. Common Art. On Wednesdays, we open up a church on Newberry Street, right tucked in next to Dolce & Gabbana and Burberry. There we are. We open up an art studio, and all are welcomed in to create beautiful works of art. 80 people strong. There are canvases and stained glass windows and beading and all sorts of art to create. Boston Warm. On Mondays and Fridays, we open up that same church, and people are welcomed in off the streets to get a cup of coffee and to be in loving community. And City Reach, a weekend retreat 7 times a year where young people are welcomed in to learn about homelessness directly from those who are experiencing it. What is important to know that in all of what we do, like you, we are church, and we gather to believe and to pray and to worship 7 days a week. But now let's get back to this morning's psalm. To walk through the valley and to lean into those hard times. David is providing us a promise this morning. Even in those hard times, we are shepherded through. God is walking with us, and God is holding us up. David is not saying to run as fast as you can to get out of that valley, and then God will be with you. No, David is saying, though we walk through. Know that even in your darkest times, that lowest of valley, that deepest of pits, God is there and walking with us. And this is what we strive to do as church. Here and on the Boston Commons, this is what church is. We gather and we walk with each other. We walk with each other in those darkest of times, those lowest of pits, and the highest of highs. And together we lean in and we create church. And this is what we do also on the Boston Commons. In fact, our congregation members, I would argue, are in fact at that lowest point, that deepest of pit, calling the streets and the shelters of Boston home. And at Common Cathedral, and I imagine here, there is no judgment in that moment. We come together and we are walking, not running out of that valley, and we are welcoming people into church 7 days a week. No matter where you slept the night before, no matter where you call home, together we will be church. And so oftentimes when I go and I get to visit and I get to talk about Scripture and talk with housed churches, people say, well, how do you do that? How do you do church without this? With no ceiling and no roof and no lights and no mic checks at the beginning of church, how does church happen? So if you will imagine for me for just a small moment that you are on the streets of Boston and it is dark and cold. You are struggling to find food, looking for a place to use a bathroom, trying to figure out how to survive, and you come across a church that welcomes you in. And in fact, we are a ministry of presence. We have very little stuff. Church actually can happen with very little stuff. In fact, this is our church. We are church out of a backpack. Yes, a couple of days a week, there are some churches, some housed churches that are good to us and let us use their space. But for the most part, all we need, we can fit into a book bag. Does anybody want to take a guess on what we carry with us for church? Oh, close. Bibles are heavy, really heavy. And everybody has one of these cell phones. And so we have Bible apps. And we have ways to get to the Bible and to the text, and we do it on our cell phones. And in fact, another bonus of cell phones is that we can find our congregation members wherever they are. In the midst of the winter during a blizzard, people are oftentimes at the Prudential Center or North Station or South Station or over at the terminals at the airport, and people will text and say, I haven't eaten in a couple days. I know it's Sunday. I know there will be fellowship and lunch. If there's any extra sandwiches, there is a group of us at North Station. We would love prayer and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And we can find them just with a simple cell phone. Any other guesses? Socks. Socks matter. There's a biblical reference, right? Jesus bends down and he wipes the feet of his disciples. He uses his stole, the thing around his neck, and he wipes and cleans the feet of those who are walking with him. Walking with him. And we walk. Don't run the streets of Boston. We walk the streets of Boston and people gather. And if you have ever been in the cold of Boston or in those gross March days when it is wet and cold and your feet get just a little wet, it is awful. And to have warm feet matters. And we carry socks. We have socks with us so that we can make somebody's day just a little bit better, and feet can be dry and safe and prayed for. What else is in here? Warm. Think warm. What else do you use in the middle of winter that's warm? Okay. Gloves. I couldn't carry all gloves. But these bad boys are amazing. Have you ever used them? Yeah. It says 10 hours. They don't lie. 10 hours of heat. This is wonderful. And so we will have these, especially when we're worshiping on a very cold day, or if we know it's going to be cold at Common Art, we'll have bowls of these out, or at Boston Warm, so people can come in and get a couple. And this could mean the difference between frostbite or no frostbite. So if you're going to sleep outside, if you're going to be outside for a long time, we have these to give and to pray for, right? To pray on this and then to give it to somebody, so that they leave with a prayer and a blessing, and hopefully warm fingers and toes. Dunkin' Donuts. I've lived all over the world, and it is only in Boston metropolitan area that there is a Dunkin' Donuts on every corner and in between every corner. You can actually not cross a street and not run into one. It's a weird thing, but it is a thing in Boston. In our community, we have $5 on these, and our community has called them dignity cards. At every place in Boston, every shelter that I know of, you go in and there is one choice. You get to go in and you can find food, you can find something to eat, maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a hot soup someplace, or you can go from one food program to the next, but you're going to eat that one thing that's offered. Even with us, when we have lunch, we have a very simple option. But when you go into Dunkin' Donuts, you can choose what you want. You have the dignity to look at a menu and say, I am in the mood for this. And then you can go to the bathroom and you can wash your hands, and you can wash up a little bit, and there's lack of easy to access bathrooms. And so with a cup of coffee and a bagel, you can also use a bathroom. And so we have these are dignity cards, and we carry these so that we are good to our congregation members. And the last thing that we have, that we always carry on us, our cross. This cross is actually a Common Cathedral Ecclesia Ministries cross. This cross was created by our community. It was designed by one of our community members and has become the symbol of our church. It has become the symbol of outdoor churches throughout the United States. What started on the Boston Commons 23 years ago has turned into 120 different churches worldwide, all on the streets of their own city, town, and towns. This cross is what we wear so that people know that we are together, that we are church. It's kind of like our membership card. And if you're wearing this cross and you are walking on the streets of Boston, people will stop you because they will know that you are safety in what can be an unsafe world. People will stop you to know that you will be willing to pray for them and and that you will be the good news in the midst of what could be a very scary day. The stories of our community members that wear this cross, they vary. Men and women sheltered and housed, paroled, sober, and waiting to be sober. The stories, they continue. It is our cross and our desire to tell the good news that brings us together, brings us to the park benches to pray, brings us to the canvas to paint. This morning, if you were with us on the Boston Commons, you would hear David's words that we heard this morning, "Though I walk." For 23 years, we have read that, remembering that it's not a race to the other side of the valley, and in fact, at Common Cathedral and at many churches, we are walking together in the valley, and we are leaning in together as church. If you were on the Commons this morning with us, you would hear the stories of our congregation members, and you should go sometime and you should hear them from them and not necessarily from me. And you would hear of Bryant and his joy of making beautiful capes at Common Art, of Peter and his struggle to stay sober, his paintings and his love of City Reach, from Manny and his passion to make bathrooms more accessible for people. And as you hear this, I hope you would hear that our community has found a way to build a church, found a way to build a community, and to dive into a faithful living. You will hear the good news that they share. As your relationship with us deepens, and I hope it does, I hope that you come on a Sunday to worship with us sometime, that you send your youth to City Reach, and you will hear even more stories of choosing to sleep in the Commons because it is safer than a shelter, of struggling to stay sober and how it feels to be out of control, of getting kicked out of a doorway at 4 a.m. because the delivery truck has arrived, of being a part of Common Art and choosing to create, of wearing our cross and choosing to believe in the good news. You will hear the person that comes to Common Art and says, "I came for the art, and I stayed for the love." Hear that good news. It is when somebody comes every Sunday to have lunch with us. They come every Sunday for that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that hug, that human contact, and then they stay for the first time to worship. Hear that good news. It is when housed churches like yours invite us in to hear our stories and to give our gifts of love. Hear that good news. We are invited to walk, not run through the valley, not alone but in community. Not alone, but with God. Not alone, but wrapped in the good news of the cross and of our rebirth. Amen.
Amen.